Hi everyone, Professor Dunn here again. Let me just make this full screen. There we go. So today what we're talking about is the area that becomes known as Mesopotamia, or at some point you must have studied this in history, social studies, global, whatever it is called nowadays. So it's known also as the Fertile Crescent, and we look at this as one of the major places for the development of civilization. It becomes known as Mesopotamia, which literally translates from ancient Greek as the land between two rivers. And this is why it's called this, because it is between the rivers, the Euphrates here and the Tigris here. And there are a number of things to point out that this land, because it doesn't have, it's not like fortified by mountains or anything really of natural occurring things. We have a number of groups of people that take it over in succession, one after another. It gets invaded a lot. So we don't have like a stable group of people in control for a long period of history like we do down here in Northern Africa in Egypt. So we'll go through this, how we have all these different people that become the rulers of this area. So, but we'll start off by just saying, or I'll start off by just saying that between 4000 and 3000 BCE, a major cultural shift seems to have taken place here, and we have agricultural villages that evolve into cities simultaneously and independently, in both the north and the southern part of Mesopotamia, so up here and down here. And these become known as city-states. Each has its own god, goddesses, and government. So completely independent. And they have also, they develop their own specialized skills beyond those needed for agriculture. So you have the idea of like artisans or crafts people that begin to be developed here. And we have the increase of trade and contact with other cultures that also begin to take place. So Mesopotamia's wealth in agricultural resources, as well as its few natural defenses, made it vulnerable to political upheaval, okay? Because we don't have forests here and lots of trees and stuff. I mean, it was limited in a lot of ways, even early on. So, the first of the Sumerians controlled, first the Sumerians controlled the south. So here we have Sumer down here, but they were eclipsed by the Akkadians. Is Acadia here? No. Okay, so eclipsed by the Akkadians, their neighbors to the north. When invaders from further north conquered the Akkadians, the Sumerians regained power locally. The Babylonians next dominated the south. Later, the center of power shifted to the Assyrians in the north, and then back again to the Babylonians that became known as the Neo-Babylonian period. So I know that's kind of fast and quick here, but this is also written out in the notes for you. We eventually, though, have this whole area here unified and dominated for quite some time under the Persians. They eventually established an empire that includes the entire ancient Near East. Okay, so let's move on to another image down here. And we'll say the first, we're going to look at the people that come from the area of Sumer, which I showed you, I pointed out, was in the southern part of Mesopotamia. The cities and city-states developed along the river in southern Mesopotamia between about 3,500 to 2,340 BCE become known collectively as Sumer. And we owe a lot to this early civilization. They invented the wagon wheel, the plow, the copper and bronze casting. But probably the most important thing that they developed is they really lay claim to the first written language in the area. So we have about 3,100 BCE, a form of writing on clay tablets that becomes known as cuneiform. And it's originally just developed to be a way of keeping track of like trades that took place between people, like I give you this cow, you give me that bale of hay kind of thing. But then it eventually develops into a real written language. And we really say that it is the first written language. There are other written languages that are coming up very quickly behind it, but cuneiform is really the first. We have, hieroglyphics in Egypt, and then also in the Indus Valley we have the oracle bone writing in which is today, it's Asia, part of India actually. So let's look at these guys here. I have a video up on them for you to watch, because we're very lucky that we actually have this figure here in New York City in the Metropolitan Museum. And the one thing that I'll show you is it explains in the video that all of these figures were found in one area that were buried together. And what we can see is that these are votive statues, and the people at this time period are very religious, very devout. So they want to pray to their gods as much as possible, to have good fortune, to be well, to be healthy. But of course they have to go off and they have to do their work for the day. So they have these votive statues that they would buy, and then they would put them in the temples so that the gods would believe that they were praying to them all day long. And so, like, the more money you had, more or less, the bigger your votive statue could be, and the better your prayers, I guess, would be to the gods, right, is the way this works. We have the distinction here of both male and female. So it's very clear it's very easy to pick these out. The male ones have beards, and the females do not. That's straightforward. The males wear a kind of tunic, because that's a belted tunic, because of course this is way before sewing machines or anything like that. So the clothing is going to be really simple. The women wear this kind of piece of cloth draped around them, which to me in particular, this one, when I look at it, it always reminds me of like an Indian sari that women wear even today. Their eyes look a little strange because in like this one they're missing, because they were actually made out of various materials and inlaid into the stone that they were carved out of, because they wanted to make them look as realistic as possible, so that you can really look at the gods, and the gods would believe they were praying to them. And then some of them have bases, some of them do not. They probably all at one point had a base, but some of them have been broken off over time. They're all very symmetrical. If we divide them down the middle, they're the same on both sides. They're very stiff. They're not very lifelike or naturalistic in the way they stand. They all, have this hand gesture in front of them, that they are, in deep meditation and deep prayer. Okay. And this would be found in what is today Iraq, circa 2,900 to 2,600 BCE. Let's move on to The next one I'm showing you is a lyre. It is not somebody who didn't tell the truth. A lyre is a musical instrument. Now, it's like a harp in a way. The wood was all rotten, so the wood has been replaced in this. But what we're looking at is the bull's head and the inlaid bands here underneath. So we have the bull's head that is covered in gold, and we have again these inlaid eyes, very beautiful, right? And then the beard, which is made out of this stone, which is only found in the area of Afghanistan, and it's called lapis lazuli. And for hundreds and hundreds of years, it was the only way we could have the color blue that was ground up and made into pigment for paint. So we see the use of this stone way into the Renaissance, and you can still buy it today. It's still more expensive today than gold. And so, you know, we can look at that later on. We'll come back to this again and again throughout the semester. Underneath it are these bands, and when we look at these ancient pieces of art here from these early civilizations, we have these bands which become known as registers, and they're read like a text. And in fact, at this time period now, circa 2600 to 2500 BCE, we have cuneiform has really developed into a written language. And this is depicting the first real epic story that we know of. It is the story of Ganesh, the tale of Ganesh. And it's an epic poem where we have these two warriors who go out and they have this whole adventure. And this is what the story is about. And in this story, they meet these kinds of mythological kind of creatures, which are shown here. And they are these kind of half human, half animal things. Like down here, we have a human body, top, like torso and head, but we have a scorpion body. And then we also have animals that look like animals, like a lion here. But the lion stands and holds a dish, so the lion is taking on these human characteristics, what we could say is anthropomorphic. And then this story of Ganesh was well known, so people will be able to clearly be able to understand this and read this as a visual written language. Okay, so I'm going to stop here. This will be my first little video I'm making for you this week, and I will make a couple more.